Our next storyteller is Ash, and she is soft launching into world domination, starting right here. And I might go with you, Ash. Soft launching into world domination. This is somehow her fifth show at FST this year. Legend has it that she now lives under the stage at The Rock and pops up when someone says, "Shit, we need a last-minute storyteller." Welcome, Ash. I keep falling down on my job to fix the mic.
I was 18 the first time I drove into Lanakuri by myself. I'd quite literally gotten my driver's license just days before, packed my shit, and hit the road. Lanakuri isn't the sort of place you'd ever find by accident. It's in the middle of nowhere. Even in Australia, most people had never heard of it, but I knew it well. It's where my nan and pa had lived for my entire life. It's where I spent all of my school holidays out in the bush, playing in the dirt. Once you make the turnoff, the bitumen dips where the road crosses the old creek bed. Eucalyptus trees lean in from both sides until their branches intertwine overhead, swallowing the sky and wrapping the car in darkness. The locals used to call it the Tunnel of Love, but to me, it always looked like a giant rib cage. As a kid, every time we drove through it, I'd take a deep breath and hold it until we came out on the other side. I couldn't have explained why back then. I just knew the world felt different once we were through. Lanakuri was an old crossing town back in the late 1800s, before Australia was even Australia. Today, it has exactly one bridge, a general store that boarded up its windows sometime in the 90s, and a faded sign that proudly declares it the hub of the universe. Nan and Pa were married more than 60 years by the time I made that first drive by myself. I was moving in with them, and what was true then still holds true today. They were the greatest team I've ever known. I grew up 2 hours south in a small semi-rural town called Sunbury, a place people nicknamed the end of the line. I don't know when I started taking that so literally, only that I did. I spent most of my childhood trying to figure out how to escape it. University became my ticket out, and when I chose a campus just under an hour from my grandparents' place, moving in with them felt like the easiest decision I'd ever made. Lanakuri gave me somewhere to hide. We had dial-up internet, no cable TV, no mobile phone reception, and there was no way to find me unless I wanted you to. As I came out of the tunnel of trees that day in my old beat-up Toyota Camry, I remember looking out the window and thinking, I'm finally home. But a year later, I made one catastrophic mistake. I went back to Sunbury. For my birthday, I was turning 19. And while I was there, I agreed to play in this stupid game of netball. I know. What the fuck is netball? It's a Commonwealth sport, kinda like basketball, but more ladylike. You can't run with the ball, you can't dribble, you catch it, you stop immediately, pivot on one foot, and then pass. It's a wonderful game if you're into personal space. You have to stand 3 feet away from the person with the ball, and it's a non-contact sport. It's huge in Australia, New Zealand, England, South Africa, Tanzania, Botswana, Malawi. You get the idea. Everywhere that's not here. And it's played primarily by incredibly athletic women wearing very short skirts. Not surprising, I loved it. I played for many years, but when I finished high school, I retired my skirt. My sister, however, on this particular trip back to Sunbury, had other ideas for me. She was the captain of a social league team, which is a team I wanted absolutely nothing to do with. It was a mixed team, which meant playing with boys. And I don't want to play with boys. That's something I have historically tried to avoid both on and off the court. But they were short on players, and somehow my sister convinced me to fill in. Physically speaking, I am built for netball. Like, I am really fucking long. My arms, my legs, I have incredible reach. Like, if we were playing koala bears, I would be the tree. Unfortunately, these same limbs also mean that by the time a message leaves my brain and travels all the way down to my feet, it's really anyone's guess what's going to happen. It's why I have never successfully completed a cartwheel. It's why pole dancing is off the table. Breakdancing too, although if you watched the last Olympics, I think it's probably fair to say that nobody in Australia can breakdance. But I digress. Standing next to me during this game, my opponent was a woman built like an absolute brick shithouse. If I was built for netball, she was built for lifting refrigerators for fun on the weekends. The whistle blew. I cut toward the center. She stepped across. Our legs tangled. My body went one way. My ankle went somewhere else. And then crack. It wasn't even half time and I was down screaming, "Fuck!" I didn't know it then, but I'd clean snapped both my tibia and my fibula. My sister called an ambulance. The ER doctors took x-rays and said it looked like I'd been in a motorcycle accident. They handed me a black marker and asked me to draw a big old arrow on my thigh because, you know, we wouldn't want to cut into the wrong leg. I had just turned 19 5 days prior. I was so out of my depth. I called my parents for help. I asked them to come. They did not. At least not that night, which was brutal at the time. Though looking back, I'm not terribly surprised. I'm not sure that either of them were ever on my team. I spent the next couple of weeks in hospital bouncing between surgeries. Somewhere in amongst the painkillers, the surgeons, and the nurses, I started doing the math. How the fuck was I supposed to finish university? I just finished my first year and second year was only a few weeks away. Nan was 83. My pa was 87. We lived in Lanakuri, which was almost an hour away from campus. I couldn't drive. I couldn't walk. I was certain that I was going to have to drop out. But Nan and Pa, they had other ideas. They'd already spent more than 60 years solving problems together. Getting me through university was just the next one. For the next 9 months, my pa drove me back and forth to university. Nan would be perched in the passenger seat while I was strewn across the back with my leg elevated on a pile of pillows and a textbook resting in my lap. Every morning, they'd drop me off, find somewhere to park, pull out their books, and spend the next 4 or 5 hours reading while I sat in lectures and tutorials. They rearranged their entire lives around me and never once made me feel like an inconvenience. They became famous around campus. Everyone knew who they were. Students, faculty, and before long, Everyone else was calling them Nan and Pa too. At the end of the day, Pa would drive us back to Lanakuri and Nan would make dinner. I was so drugged up most of the time that eating had become a problem. So she'd cut everything into tiny little pieces, as though I was 5 years old again. And somehow she managed to do that without ever making me feel like a child. They made sure I never missed a physio appointment. If I complained, Nan would remind me that I'd never get better by sitting around feeling sorry for myself. My pa started copying my physio exercises in the living room. He'd say that they would keep him young. And my Nan, well, she would roll her eyes at him, but he was right. The man lived to be 101. It took almost a year before I could walk again. It still blows my mind, but somehow I made it through that second year of university on 1 foot. And I made it through years 3 and 4 balancing 2 degrees because I was lucky enough to be living with the greatest team that I have ever known. I was one of only 2 women in the entire year studying computer science, and I went on to graduate at the top of my class. I beat all of the boys. Every single one of them. My nan used to say, you can't always beat them with these, but you can always beat them with this. They couldn't have been prouder. I can still see their faces smiling at me as I walked across the stage on 2 feet at my graduation ceremony. Those 2 degrees still hang on my wall in my office today, and whenever I look at them, I think about Lanakuri, the hub of the universe, the hub of my universe. I picture driving through the tunnel of eucalyptus trees and Nan and Pa waiting for me on the front porch. I take full credit for beating all of the boys, but earning those degrees, that was a team effort. Thank you.